Welcome to SchezzWho, Hampton's top spot for politics. And this show is brought to you, as always, by some very important people. Starting off with Andrea Dixon, my lovely, awesome, talented wife, who works at Richmond now with Workforce Development for the Department of Energy. She's doing great things. Miss Ellen, who has two great locations for Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue Express, including here in Portsmouth at 4206 Portsmouth Boulevard, and across from Virginia University in Virginia Beach. She has some great food. I know personally because I love her fried fish. Mr. Seiko Varner, who created Positive Vibes Incorporated, does some great stuff for consulting-wise to help you out with your money. He also founded the Hampton Roads Green Book, which is a great local resource application to find Black and Brown-owned businesses here in Hampton Roads, which helped earn him the Entrepreneur of the Year by Black Brand. Mr. Farley Perkins over at the Farley Perkins Agency. He's an insurance broker. He can help you out with a lot of insurance needs. I got his number right there for you. And I have his email address for you. Look him up for some insurance stuff. And of course, ELG Sweet Boutique, which is right back here in Portsmouth at 340 High Street. Look them up for some great confectionery, tasty treats. Now, Bill Dodson is joining us again tonight. He ran for City Council in Portsmouth, and we're waiting on official word on the final ballots to see if he prevails. Last time there were some moderate technical difficulties. I think tonight aims to be better. So let's bring him back on right now. Mr. Dodson, how are you tonight, good sir?
Marvelous. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I will admit I kind of enjoy seeing this rain. We've been missing a little bit of rain the past couple of weeks.
We're down in Florida, so I'm not seeing it.
Oh, well, I know they get a lot of their own rain there in Florida, so you might see some tomorrow.
We might.
Do you have any word as to the happenstances with the recent counting of the ballots? Do you have any updates?
All I have is questions. I was looking at it today, and we've got 104 voters with only 71,000 registered voters and 104 votes that came in. So I'm questioning, where did the other 30,000 votes come from? But that'll be an interesting question to answer afterwards.
And is that something that we should reasonably expect by this time tomorrow?
They have to turn it into the state by tomorrow. So yes, they'll have an answer for us sometime tomorrow. They have a state requirement.
All right. Well, definitely want to hear that news as well, because this is going to decide who sits in that seat as to whether or not the individual who's close behind you gets to stay in office, or you get to be someone new and in charge here in the City Council of Portsmouth.
I don't know if I'd call it in charge. It's more, I'd like to think of it more of a facilitator.
Collaboration, perhaps, maybe a mediator, if you want to do that. We'll get to see those perhaps in the next few weeks, because don't they swear in late December as opposed to January?
That's correct. They get sworn in. The first meeting is January 2nd to pick the vice president, and the first meeting is January 14th. That's correct.
Cool. Very similar things happened when I saw transitions in Virginia Beach. They were swearing in December, and then they hit the ground running when it came to January. So I'd imagine very similar here in Portsmouth.
Well, the city managers already planned a retreat for this council, because they had one at the beginning of the last council 4 years ago, and two of the members refused to attend. So he's hoping to hit the ground running, and so we don't have to start from ground zero. We can start with a little bit advanced information, advanced directives, and get going quickly.
Do you have plans to have further communication with city manager in advance of that retreat, or you already have some plans to what you want to start talking about?
We're just waiting for the election results. So no, I haven't made any plans yet. I don't want to jump the gun on it quite yet.
Already. Thinking again of this rain, I'm reminded of hailing from Virginia Beach, how important it was to address flooding mitigation. And I imagine that is something that's going to happen in a lot of other cities, including here in Portsmouth as well. And with you being a prospective city council member in Portsmouth, do you have any ideas that you would like to address with the infrastructure in Portsmouth and flooding mitigation?
There's some dramatic infrastructure needs. Most of our infrastructure is approaching 100 years in need of maintenance. Back on the list. So they started it a couple years ago when a number of us came in and said, why are we so far behind? Why isn't money being allocated for the infrastructure? Why is it being so neglected? And they started. It's been a slow start. I don't know how much money's been allocated for it, but we are definitely in a catch-up game for storm, sewer, and water updates. Definitely one of those items that needs to be prioritized for the infrastructure. I also want to introduce the idea of light transit into the city. Light rail transit, at least to plan for it. I tried to do it when we used to live in Suffolk a few years ago, and there was a closed door for us. But if we don't allocate the land for it now and the planning for it now, by the time they get around to it and it becomes an emergency need, we won't be able to afford it. So I'm trying to say, at least with the planning, can we get the idea in and make sure the land is allocated for some light rail to come through? Hopefully from Suffolk through us to Virginia Beach, get some of the traffic off the tunnels.
I would second that. I know a couple of people on Virginia Beach who I've had on my show have been a big fan of the idea of light rail, but Virginia Beach famously voted that down in 2016. How would
everybody but the mayor? You're right.
How would you want to address individuals who are like, I don't want you to do that if you were on city council?
Oh, right now I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying let's make sure the infrastructure is available and affordable for when the time comes. But yes, you're right now. It's not feasible right now. We just need to make plans for it and make sure that buildings aren't built, roads aren't built that would interfere with it.
What are your thoughts on rapid bus transit? That's something I ran on in 2020 in Virginia Beach. Do you like the idea of also incorporating that?
I'm hoping to be on the HRT commission as one of the seats, the committee seats, the liaison seats there. And I've been to 2 of the meetings already to try and understand how that system works. So it's going to take some more familiarization before I can understand how high-speed bus might help our area. The bus ridership that we have right now doesn't keep up with the monetary needs of the system. And so the question is, can we route it to where people and zone so that people will actually use a public transportation system? We used to live outside of New York when I was there, and oh, Mabel, I love the public transportation systems that we have up there. And that's the great thing about being here in Portsmouth. I've had some exposure to other systems and other cultures, and hope to bring some of that infrastructure and social planning to Portsmouth. Portsmouth is 50 years behind in planning.
How about the idea of public safety? I think we dabbled on that back on Sunday, but let's circle back around because I think we have a good reception on this back and forth we have today. Hopefully no more technical difficulties. Public safety again, how would you want to tackle that?
Well, as you know, that's probably our number one issue. We can't get business into the city. There's not a lot that we can do with anything until we solve the safety issue of our citizens. Too many kids have been shot. Too many kids are shooting. There's too much bullying in the schools. There's too much lawlessness in the city. There's no respect for the fellow man, and public safety has got to be our number one issue that we can attack. So we've got the crime commission that Mr. Hugel and Mr. Tillage just pushed through at the last 2 meetings. I think the first meeting is going to be this next week, but it requires a buy-in by all the parties of the city, not just the committee. And part of the problem we're having right now is getting the Commonwealth's attorney buy-in, right? She hasn't attended any of the meetings, hasn't responded to any calls. And without her, I don't think that we're going to have as successful as the program as we'd like to have.
Would you, let's say you hear good news in the next couple of days, would you want to meet with her personally?
I've tried. I've called 3 or 4 times already to set up a meeting and have gotten, okay, we'll call you back. And it's been over the last 6 months that I've asked for those meetings, and that's something I've already tried.
All right, I like the idea that you have tried, and maybe it just takes the fact that you would officially become a councilman.
Might change things a little bit.
Yes.
How
How about the idea of housing? I double checked. I went on Wavy to look at your candidate profile before tonight, and they did address housing on that. And you had a interesting viewpoint as to whether or not Portsmouth is even really considered in need of affordable housing. So, what are your thoughts completely on that, and ideas that you might want to hit the ground running with come January?
Well, our PRHA director is, in my opinion, going down the right track. She's looking at not being a revolving door. How do we help people step up their personal wealth from a low status, beginning or low status, and get them out of the poverty cycle? I love her philosophy on that. It's fantastic. What we need not to be is a revolving door. Part of the way housing is tied to taxes, and right now, we have a dramatically low housing value in the city, which doesn't provide enough taxes. I was talking with one of the housing directors the other day, and one of the things that we desperately need, actually, believe it or not, is more rich people. We don't have enough rich people in the city to tax in order to get the taxes down for the people that really need tax relief. So the big thing we need to do is figure out, can we get higher income housing in? And also it's tied to business. Can we get more business in? But both of those are, again, tied to public safety and crime in the city. It's a vicious circle that goes around.
All right. I think that there might be some part and parcel to what germinates crime over the years is our schooling system. And you touched on that, I think, a bit on both your website and on the Wavy thing. But you want to go after school violence and absenteeism. Is that part of a greater plan of advocacy for Portsmouth schools with your council voice?
The council gets to decide the money for the school board and possibly some feedback on what's desired, but it doesn't have control. The school board is who controls it. So when people come to council and say, the school isn't performing, they really need to go to the school board and influence the school board there. Violence in the schools needs to be addressed by the school board. Again, we can only advise on those subjects with them. Part of the problem with the school board right now is there's a extreme lack of transparency. And a couple of people in the city are already seeing that we haven't seen a budget from them in 3 years. And it is a state requirement that a budget be supplied to council before money is supplied. And that code has not been met in 3 years. So we need to get the school board first to say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do with your money. So you and me as the public and the common citizen can sit down and say, what is the school board doing with my money? What programs are they doing? Are these programs successful? Well, what I'd really like to see from the school board is measurement. And that's the one thing that I saw this year. They started addressing absenteeism. So I know the philosophy is there and they've got a grain of it. The big thing I'd like to see is them emphasize more measurement of the parameters. Let's be honest about bullying in the schools. Let's be honest about the scores. Last year we had the lowest SOL scores in the Tidewater area, and just the year before last. And this past year they pulled up to where they were third from the bottom in the area. So they pulled up some, but it's still so dramatically below the state average in SOL scores. Now I know a lot of people don't agree with SOL scores, but it is a standard of measurement that we can use to compare schools, to compare what is our performance. And I'd like to see that come up. But the schools are dramatically underfunded. We're still below average. And so the question is, can we get crime down enough to get taxes up enough to really provide the schools with the money that they need?
I am a person who is ignorant on many, 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 many things. But when it comes to school board and city council, I don't know how much there is a personal connection between people who are on school board and people who are city council members. Do you want to be engaging them even if it's not like in an official capacity, just, hey,
Oh,
here are my thoughts type of stuff.
I'd love to be the liaison, and that's part of what I want to do is see, can we increase the transparency? Can we increase this philosophy of measurement between them to say, listen, don't be afraid to talk about the problems, because all they talk about is this very, very few successes that they have in the system. But to fess up to the failures that we have means that we can then go and directly attack them and bring them up to the standards that we want. Measurement, and a willingness to say, hey, this is what we're doing good and this is what we're doing wrong.
I imagine that willingness to meet with others who are, on the other side of the municipal complex, that school board is something you might want to share with other people in the executive branch of the city managers, deputies, what type of relationship you want to have in order to curb what I think you might also feel is a dysfunction in the city government.
I'm sorry, try that again.
Basically, you have identified that there's a certain level of dysfunction in city government, and you could very well be serving on it within a month. So how do you want to address that head on, meeting with who? What ways do you like to think that you could help smooth out that dysfunction?
Well, I think the dysfunction was so far has been. Now you're going to ask me to be politically correct, aren't you? Hopefully, somewhat removed with the last election. Let's let it go at that. I think we have a very positive group of people that really want to get to work and don't have quite the personal agendas that the previous council had. I really don't see dysfunction carrying forward with this council. This council, in my opinion, is a fantastic group of people.
The current one is, or the one that's about to be?
The current one that's been elected, coming up. Us. Hopefully us.
Hopefully us. Okay, I'll take that.
I got to meet a lot of these people on the campaign trail and understand their personalities. And I thought we had a very different feeling out there in the field, that we were friendly. We could make friends. We could talk about things, ask how you were doing. It was very much a different feel from the last election, where everybody was separate and there was a lot of hate between the candidates. Having Yolanda and Kitty on this committee, I think they're definitely going to be assets.
That bodes well for the great idea that there's going to be better teamwork on Portsmouth City Council, which would smooth out that dysfunction. But I also want to say that I don't think you have to feel being too politically incorrect or correct. We live in interesting times, to say the least, regarding some of the politics, both state and local and national, definitely national. So if you don't mind, you can go ahead and I am doing a series right now with other people. I'm asking just to hear their thoughts on the national and local elections. Do you want to share any of your own, perhaps what you thought going in, what you saw during the campaign, so yourself included, and just what do you think now after it's all said and done?
I was so focused on the local election that I didn't even watch the national election go through. And it was a day or two before I said, what happened with the national election? And part of the problem we have with some politics locally is that people associate national politics on the local level. Our job as city council is not to deal with the issues that they're dealing with on the national level. We're not there to deal with abortion or school right, all the other issues that we're here just to make the city run. And I don't know that one's personal politics, whether it's liberal or conservative or moderate, I don't know that there's a lot of play there that we're going to see with the city council. I just don't see it.
Okay. We have had some conversations via text and stuff as we're trying to get this show up and running between yourself and myself. Based on the certain topics that we might not have fully addressed, would you like to air some opinions? Perhaps I had been a fan. You said you would like to tackle some issues like a bull in a china shop. So, what are those thoughts? And just go ahead and what are your plans on helping to fix things that you see should be fixed?
I just think we've had this is the way we've done it for the last 50 years philosophy, and this is the way we're going to do it for the next 50 years philosophy. And we need to be new and innovative in the way we do things. We need to measure performance from each department and say, how are you scoring? Are you scoring on an A, B, C, D, E, or F level? And wherever you are, that's okay. Let's start from there. And let's see if we can get everybody up to an A level. Can we supply water at a reasonable rate? Can we get trash picked up and make everybody happy? These are the basic functions of the city that make it function. And can we get crime down and business up so that we can get taxes down? Those are the things that everybody's just so hard on, and it's so much hinges again back on the 1 and 2 crime.
Tolls, please help bring those tolls down, man.
That's a complex issue because they argued there was some. We need to revisit the arguments as to why they put it in before we just start arguing to take it off. And what are the advantages and disadvantages? And I haven't seen any data on it to say, is it good? Is it bad? And we're just getting people's opinions on it right now. So we need to get the facts of why, if everybody thinks it's bad for Portsmouth, why is it bad? What exactly is it doing? And we need science, not opinions, to make that measurement so that if it is a different opinion than what everybody thinks of it, so that it can be explained to them as to why it is, and we can get a buy-in to go whatever direction that we go on it. But for me, without science to back it up, I can't form an opinion on the tolls. I don't like them. But if we take it back to the state, then we have the whole state paying for the maintenance of our tolls, or otherwise it's a user tax for the people that uses it, which takes a burden off the ones that don't use it. I'm not exactly sure which one is right yet. We're going to have to explore it more to find out.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage, as someone who goes through the downtown and midtown tunnels quite frequently, the city council that represents me to advocate to either level them off or to reduce them over the years. But again, that's just the public
the public perception of it. The question, though, is I'd like to find out is where's the money going?
Elizabeth City Tunnel.
Yeah, I don't know what they do with it yet. So that's one of the things I'd like to find out first. Is what are they doing with it?
All right. Well, it's a lot of good policy questions you've been able to bring back up tonight. I'm glad to have the conversation. I do hope, let's say you get sworn in and you like the idea of giving more of your opinions on stuff that you have been able to vote on, to come back on the show and discuss that, perhaps with another great team mate of yours on city council, and we could just have some good political chats, maybe once a month or something like that. That's my plan.
That'd be great because it helps get the more we can put the word out, the more people will be informed. Let me close with one item, if you don't mind.
I do have a last question, but if you want that to be the closer, that's fine. But basically, I want you to just talk about your favorite Portsmouth stuff, like favorite eateries or hangout spots, quaint things in Portsmouth. I just want you to sell me on Portsmouth if I didn't live there.
Gosh, it's so different than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, there were many services here that have now gone, many entertainment venues that have gone. That I miss. We enjoyed the skating rink that we used to have out Portsmouth Boulevard, and that's gone. I've enjoyed the restaurants in Old Town. The Children's Museum is such an asset. We've got grandkids that we take to the Children's Museum. One of the things I'd like to see added to that my wife is putting on her platform is to bring the Crayola experience and see if we can tie it into the Children's Museum. And if you've been to some of the children's entertainment, the Crayola experience is a fantastic one to have. Gosh, I enjoy both the two of the breweries that we've had. I've been to. I think we've got 3 now. I haven't been to the 3rd one yet. And then I enjoy that because I run a distillery out of Williamsburg, and we kind of run along the same lines as they do. So we've had some fun getting out and about. Say again?
You personally do?
Yes, that's one of my businesses, is running a distillery.
I just picked up a position with James City County.
Good. That's where we are, James City County, up on 2nd Street. We do America's historic liquors, so we do reproductions of the first liquors that came into America. It's all about history. So when we talk,
something I'm intrigued in. One day when I get home after a long day at James City County's Parks and Recreation, I might want to stop by and pick up a spirit on the way home.
I'm usually there on Saturdays, sometimes on Fridays. So call me in advance. You have my number.
Yes, sir. Those are some great things that you mentioned for Portsmouth. I want to give you the reins to do your last thing that you wanted to say.
One of the things that is unique about a couple of the new people on council is that we are not in need of an income from this. So one of the things that I'm doing is going to use most of my salary to hire a research assistant so that we can bring data into the system and research things that the city manager just doesn't have time to do. He is so overwhelmed with just getting the department straight. And we need to understand where the city. So I hope I can facilitate. I don't need the money. And people think, well, people on the city council are there to get bribes and make a lot of money. I've made all the money that I need. I'm not rich, but I've made all the money I need. There's a book called Enough. It's a Christian book that talks about, do you have enough earthly assets and are you ready to give back? It's a Christian book, and that's where I'm at. I'm at that point where I'd like to give back because I don't really have anything that I need. I've got a great marriage, great grandkids, great kids. They span the political spectrum, as does my family spans the racial background too. So hopefully it's a time when we can have people concentrate on the city rather than their personal needs.
It's rather refreshing to hear, I will admit. You never really hear a lot of people say, I'm going to take my public salary and I'll either donate it or give it to a new position just to help the city out. Hey, I asked
if I could refuse the salary, and they said, no, you can't. You have to take it. It's already been a question out there.
Very intriguing. But hey, I'm also thankful to hear your opinion on that. Well, Mr. Dodson, thank you again. Next time I might say Councilman Dodson. Thank you again for coming on SchezzWho, and I can't wait to have you on the next time to discuss your first few votes.
Would love to have you there because the more we talk, the more we can get the information out, the more the public is informed.
Absolutely. I hope you have a nice, safe night and perhaps watch some football.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Have a good one. This has been another episode of SchezzWho. Don't forget to like the episode, subscribe to this channel, and come back for more when it comes to the best politics here.